Yeah. So welcome you all for the second session of our day 3 FDP, ATAL FDP on barriers to critical and logical thinking. So morning session, we have just seen an overview about what is critical thinking, right? Who is a critical thinker? What is that critical thinking process? And we have did some of the exercises to understand what is critical thinking. Maybe this session is exclusively dedicated for understanding what are the various barriers and challenges. And you have a very eminent resource person for the session because Dr. Shriprabha, she used to handle this critical thinking course for our MBA students. I think she has been handling that for the past 2-3 years. We have been offering it. I hope you are going to have a great learning from her. So before handing over the session to her, let me just formally introduce Dr. Shriprabha. She earned her BE degree in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from PHE College of Technology, an MBA from GRG School of Management Studies in 1998 and PhD from Anna University. She has over 3 years of industry experience and about 17 years of teaching and research experience. She started her career at GEM Equipments and moved into Tamil Nadu College of Engineering. And later in 2008, she has joined GRG School of Management Studies. She was a founder editor for our Prarana, the Journal of Management Thought and Practice, the biannual journal, which is published by GRG School of Management Studies. She is also a recognized guide under Bharatiya University. She has produced many number of PhD and MPhil scholars. She is a recipient of Ramasamy PIR Best Young Teacher Award, CMA GRD Best Management Teacher Award. She is also a recipient of Silver Medal from JL Batra Best Research Paper. And overall in GRG SMS, she even coordinated during our ACBS the entire accreditation process. She was spearheading that team. Okay. So, and as I was telling, as far as critical thinking course is concerned, she is the person who has been handling that for the past 3 years. So, I hope you are going to have a great learning from her. Over to you, Dr. Shriprabha. Very happy to have you here as our resource person for the team. Over to you. Thank you.
Welcome, Shriprabha. Welcome. It's all over to you.
Thank you, Vandana and Kavita. So, like as Kavita was mentioning, it was this is the third year where we thought like critical thinking is an important dimension and that has to be inculcated amidst the students, and that's the reason how and why we introduced a course on critical thinking for our students. And over the years we found that this course has helped students in multiple dimensions. First is understanding facts, analyzing them, analyzing a problem or an issue or any small thing from multiple perspectives, multiple dimensions, considering the viewpoints of others, what is the, and then logically, systematically arriving at a decision, or maybe we can call it as a conclusion. And that has helped them a lot, both in their professional life as well as in their personal lives, especially when it comes to analytical papers and preparing presentations. All those, it has really helped them. And that's the reason why this topic was is a part in this FDP, because it is one of the most important life skill and one of the most sorted skills among students, as looked upon by the employers. And as for each one of us also, irrespective of the age, the profession we are, critical thinking is gaining prominence and gaining importance in the context of information explosion. So with the abundance of information that's available, it's critical for us, it's important for us to identify which is right, which is wrong, which is appropriate, not, and then decide what should be the base on which we can take decision. So this is not necessarily for management graduates, it equally applies to engineering graduates also. Arts and science and engineering, and especially in engineering colleges, most of the engineering colleges in this region, the last 2 years, they have introduced critical thinking as a 1 credit course, an optional course, a basket of courses under life skills, which they are offering 10 courses, of which critical thinking is one of the most sought after course also. So this is the context and the background. So, good morning. Before getting into the session, I thought like I'd like to listen to you all to know what are your expectations from this course.
You may unmute and speak, or you can also post it in the chat.
Okay, madam.
So what are your expectations? You had a course, you had a session now on the critical thinking, the basics. So what are your expectations from this session?
What barriers are there in critical thinking, beyond which kind of thing we should not go in critical thinking? According to situations, we have to go with the critical thinking, and to what extent, where we have to use this critical thinking, where we are not supposed to use this critical thinking.
Okay.
That is to some extent.
Some extent.
Yeah.
Well, you have put it across so nicely, Dr. Tirumala Rao.
Thank you. Thank you.
Start getting into this critical thinking, it becomes endless. It's something like trying to find the end in a woolen ball.
Yeah.
At times we get lost searching for information, collating, and finally arriving at conclusion. It's like something like digging, it goes on. So we need to know where we need to put an end.
Yeah.
And Ruxana Safi want to learn something new about critical thinking and out of box. Fine. Okay. Fine.
Application of critical thinking in daily life and profession, all these areas.
Application of critical
application
thinking.
Part is important.
Application part is important. Yes. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So before we get into all this, thought like set the context and the stage with the famous quote I love, and which is more appropriate to this context and more appropriate in the field of education. Study without reflection is a waste of time, and reflection without study is dangerous. Put forth by Confucius, and this I always keep talking about this, sharing this with my students. So critical thinking is all about this. So beautifully he has put it in 2 lines. So whatever we learn, we read, we in the sense as individuals and also as facilitators or as faculty, most important is.
Madam, you mean this quote belongs to reflective teaching?
Reflective teaching, it could be critical
because very
thinking.
Recently this I think I added in my last year reflective teaching research paper, I think. Yeah, because myself and my wife together we have written this paper. She is head department English in my college where I work as vice principal. So there she's from English department, so we have done together this paper. I think this reflective teaching, we use this quote already.
Reflective teaching. It's
Yes.
appropriate for critical thinking also.
Yeah.
And more specifically as facilitators for our students.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So as facilitators, any small concept that teach the students, we need to provide them the space to think upon why the topic is important, in what way it is related to the course of study, how it's going to be useful, where they can apply that. So unless we give all these perspectives, the cycle is not complete. So for that, we need to have a clear understanding, the context in all this, and then maybe in experiential learning or in activity-based learning, in every single session that we handle, we need to have scope of implementing this. Their understanding level and also applying that. So whatever we have learned, when you're able to put it in practice, the concepts gets easily registered. They'll be able to remember. That's more important. Say normally when we explain a concept, we use examples, and when you're valuing papers, we see than the concept, the example what we have cited in the class gains more importance. They remember, and that's what we could see in the answer scripts when you are valuing. So that's more important for us to focus upon this. And when we reflect upon the topic or the concept, we are likely to have multiple perspectives. So depending on the individual, their background, their thought process, their level of knowledge, their level of exposure, they come out with varied perspectives on any topic of that we take it up for discussion. So that leads to lateral thinking also and out-of-box thinking. So together all this has to be facilitated. So if that is not facilitated, application is likely to lag. And finally, whatever they do, it's just like adding a degree, just get, adding degree, or it doesn't serve the purpose of education, I would say. So this is the context in which critical thinking is gaining importance in the academia as well as in the workplace. So like how I have structured the session is, we will take up 2 small exercises. And then through the exercises, we will assess or we'll evaluate what were the barriers, hindrances that we had. And then we will see how it can be, what is that we need to do consciously to overcome that, to overcome those barriers. Shall we move ahead? Is it fine till now? Any observations? This is the first exercise. Being a tour guide for an alien. Aliens we have seen in movies, but let's assume that aliens are here on the earth, and each one of us has been assigned the task of being a tour guide for them. So we have been assigned the task of conducting a tour for aliens who are visiting the earth and observing human life. You are riding along in a blimp, viewing the landscape below, and you float over a professional baseball stadium. So one of the aliens looks down and is very confused by what he sees. You explain that there is a game going on and he asks several important questions. So this is the context. So now our task would be to list out what are the probable questions the aliens are likely to pose to us and what would be the responses for those questions. Maybe you can take a minute time to think about it, and then we'll go ahead with the questions and the responses. Is that fine?
Fine, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
So you mean to say what the aliens are, what questions they put us?
Yes.
They ask us.
Yes, what questions they ask us, they are likely to ask us. What questions you anticipate that they will ask, and what would be your response to those questions?
What is blimp, ma'am? Can I know? Blimp. Blimp. What is blimp? What is blimp, ma'am? B-L-I-M-P.
See, it's like how do I tell that?
Is it a group? You're riding along in a...
No, it's like an airship. So where you're traveling and it's visible. What's happening down is visible.
Okay.
It can be an aeroplane, it can be an airship.
A small airship.
Yes,
okay.
A small airship.
Barrage balloon. Yeah.
So whereby it's visible for those who are traveling in that, they are able to see. It's not close, they are able to see top as well as down with clarity. That's what we call it as a blimp.
So aliens are in blimp, you mean to say?
Yes, you along with the aliens are traveling in a blimp. You're passing by a baseball stadium. The aliens look down, they are very curious and they shoot up questions. So the task is what questions they are likely to ask you and what will be the answers that you're likely to give. Maybe we can take like one of the participants, maybe few participants can take the role of aliens and few participants can be the tour guides. So what one can pose questions and the other group can try answering it.
Yeah,
that will make it a little more interesting and interactive, right?
Yeah.
So who would like to volunteer being as aliens and who would like to take up the role of the tour guide?
Questioning is easy, madam. Questioning is easy. So I take the alien.
I'll be an alien.
Alien. Questioning part is always easy, questioning others.
So who would love to take the volunteer to take the role of a tour guide then? Maybe we can have 3, 4 alien, 4, 5, and then 1 or 2 tour guides.
Okay, I'll be the part of tour guide, madam. Let the task may be challenging.
Okay, explaining it. Fine. Okay.
Yeah. Tour guide. What about others?
Are they there in the session?
99 are in session, 98.
I'll be one alien.
Yes, we are here.
I'll be one alien.
Okay. Thank you, Lynette. It would be nice if you turn on your cameras.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Are we visible, ma'am?
Lalita is mentioning that her mic is not okay. That's why she's chatting. Fine, Lalita, you can either take the role of an alien or that you would like to take the role of a tour guide. So only two.
I said Linit madam told that she is alien. Ask her to start putting the questions.
Okay. See, it
Okay.
would be nice if we have a few more also participating, right? Oh, Sujata would like to take the role of an alien. Okay. Lynette, yes, Lynette.
Ma'am, obviously the first question. What are
Yes.
they doing?
What are they doing? Yes.
What are they doing? They are playing basketball.
Baseball. Okay.
Baseball. Okay.
Why are they holding those sticks on their hands?
With the stick only, they are supposed to push the ball.
What is that ball? What do you mean by that ball?
It is a bat and ball game played between two opposing teams that take turns batting and fielding.
So what is a baseball?
It is a round object.
Baseball.
It is a round object.
What is an object?
Okay.
Something which we can hold, something which we can touch, which is tangible.
Tangible. Okay, which is tangible. Okay.
It is 4 bases that mark the course of a runner must take the score.
Take the score. Why are they running?
Yeah, why is that guy sitting on that floor?
That is
Why are the other guys shouting?
that is when the
Why are the
score
other
when they record the score, when they take the runs, the other one will be shouting.
What is that guy wearing on his head?
It is to protect when he skips out or
Helmet.
helmet. Yeah.
What is a helmet?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? What is a helmet? What do you mean by a helmet?
It is to protect when you slip down, some injury, to protect from injury to the head.
I don't have a helmet, so why should that person wear a helmet?
Human beings wear that because we are prone to all kind of danger things on the earth.
But you are a human being, right?
Yeah.
You don't wear now, right?
No, I'm not, because I'm not playing or riding anything right now. I'm
But
just
we are
guiding
riding,
you.
We are riding in this blimp, right? So
Yeah, in this blimp,
you are
as it
not
is a
wearing-
protected
you are
airship,
not-
I need not
still you're
wear.
not- Why?
Yeah. As it is a protected airship, I need not wear anything.
No, you can say also that it is like a blimp which is used to protect from outer things while traveling. So same thing we can say that it is like the blimp.
Okay. Why are they wearing different colors of dresses?
It is to opponents, like different two teams resembling the teams. It identifies the team.
Identifying the teams.
Identifying the teams.
Why
Why
is
are
that on the field, some areas you can see something green, the other area is blank? Why is that?
That is lawn and the what do you call, some part is the ground, some part is covered with lawn, the greenery part, and the other one is left over with ordinary what do you call, without lawn.
So Ms.
Okay,
Lalita has a question. What are teams? What is a lawn?
Lawn gives the grip to run fast and all, that becomes easy when you play. That is why we prefer lawn in the grounds generally.
No, but sorry to interrupt, but there is one question. I mean, the alien must be able to see, whatever here. So we can say that okay, the greener part is the lawn where we have to, or the
They play
these are
play.
boundaries. So
Yes.
those things are visible. So
I'm
you
a
can explain
alien, right?
directly rather than giving explanation in in a kind of theory like.
No, but does that
Yes.
alien live in a space like you guys live? Not you guys, human beings live.
Pardon?
Does alien live in a space like this where they know what is the lawn and what is the
No,
ground and
no,
all?
doesn't matter whether they leave or not. But while asking a question, they are also seeing the objects. No, I mean the lawn or whatever. So only the thing is that they don't know what it is called. Okay, but they can see it, as you said in the
So, like as a tour guide, we can give a 1 minute or a 2 minute explanation of what is happening there when we are passing by. Being a tour guide, we can give an explanation of what they are seeing beneath. So when we are explaining, there has to be no assumptions that the aliens are likely to know all this. So we may explain like what is a game, and then teams, how do you, what is a team, what the game is. So with all those contexts, we can set and explain it, and then later keep it open for questions. So when we explain, or when we talk, or when we share information, we are likely to have we assume that the other person has a fair amount of knowledge at a particular level, and with that is what we start. But is that assumption right?
wrong.
And with that assumption, at times we use certain terminologies. We start at a higher level, which one lot of them are likely to understand, whereas the others, they may not. So whenever we are taking a topic, or when you're addressing, let's have the let's not assume, let's have no assumptions that the people understand. So started from the base. So taking into account the nature of the participants, the diversity of the participants, and keeping in mind that when we start explaining the concept or the idea, it's likely to give more clarity to avoid misunderstandings. So because each one, when they assume, they are likely to perceive things and observe it in a different way, the way how they see the world. And each one of us, we wear filters. Whatever we see in front of us, it just looks the same. But what information we want from that is what we take in. The rest we leave it. What we perceive as important is what we pick. What is important to other person need not necessarily be the same we perceive as important. So that's why bearing those filters or applying those filters leads to selective absorption of information and processing. So that's one fundamental barrier for critical thinking. So when we started explaining, we had the assumption like they know what a team is, they know what a ball is, they know what is, but they are not likely to. So we can tell what it is, and then maybe certain base, we can start at a threshold level, and then as it goes, when they ask questions, is what we can go about explaining it. So question could also be, these are few questions that we put up. So why are there no female players? People get, and you see like a lot of playing in the, so why are they not coming at coming to the field and joining? what winning points score, how long the game is be. So these could be the other set of questions that could be posed up. Hope you are able to have a fair understanding of the significance of critical thinking. Thank you, Lalita, for the response. Others? Shall we move on?
Yes, yes.
So, critical thinking is a self-directed process. No one can make us think. We'll have to initiative that should come from within. And the most important is we need to take conscious, deliberate steps to think at the highest level of quality. When I say highest level of quality, it is having no assumptions. The moment we start having assumptions, it is likely to mislead. So no assumptions. It's like testing the base assumptions what we have, understanding or listing out the context or the base assumptions that we have. So that's most important. So it's a self-directed process. So we need to initiate it. And this is what I picked up from a survey, what employers are likely to look towards 2022. What are the skill sets that they are likely to look at? Analytical thinking and innovation. Innovation is key everywhere. Active learning and learning strategies. What strategies? They tend to adopt. We have different learning strategies. Creativity, originality, and initiative. So do they come forward for that? Technology, design, and programming. The engineering end. Critical thinking and analysis. Complex problem solving. Leadership, social influence. Emotional intelligence. Reasoning, problem solving, brainstorming. System analysis and evaluation. So this critical thinking, though it is at the 5th level, the order of importance, 5th place, but when it comes to analytical thinking and innovation, learning, active learning, creativity, designing, programming, in each one of this, complex problem solving, in each one of it, critical thinking, the component of critical thinking exists. It becomes very difficult for us to separate critical thinking from this. It becomes an integral part of all these. And we'll be able to enhance these skills when we understand what critical thinking is and start practicing it. So what we are doing, it will help us to make it, to do it little more better. We'll be able to improve. So this is the context of the significance of critical thinking. So this is from the survey, Future of Job Reports 2018, conducted by the World Economic Forum. So shall we move on? This is yet another small exercise. So we normally read articles in the newspaper. So when we read the information and we process it, or as we go through the article, like do questions arise in our mind? have we ever questions, have we thought about few dimensions where it's not clear, or you wanted little more information, or we just read an article, take up the information that is there? How do we do?
Ma'am, in which particular state this number is increasing particularly? That may be the one of the question.
Okay.
Then we require to identify the reasons why this rapid increase in this, or maybe the climate change or any situation we have incorporated, maybe the government policies that implemented, environmental policies or such things.
Okay.
That may be the question.
Yes.
From my side, I just thinking. Okay.
That's nice. That's nice. Valid questions. Is there any valid survey? Yes. Why do you say, like, what evidence you have to say that the leopard population is increasing? Yes. So Manoj Kumar has put up, like, what will be the impact of the increase in leopard population on the ecosystem? Ashana has a question. Are you sure? Is it increasing? Yes.
What could be the possible interventions?
What could be the possible interventions?
Being taken in the population has happened.
What could be the possible interventions? Sorry. So please, participants.
I think, yeah, somebody's mic is.
Kindly mute.
One second, I'll mute all and you can unmute, okay? Because I find it difficult to find them.
Ma'am, what could be the possible interventions which has resulted in an increase in leopard population?
Okay. So what is the interventions that has led to the increase in the leopard population? Fine, good.
Ma'am, migrating from any other country to our country.
Migrating from any other place, yes. Is it limited to a particular place in India? Yes. So we can also try to compare. Yes.
Please proceed.
We will try to compare it, previous years, other countries, other states. Yes. So these questions come to our mind. So such questions, does it normally arise, or is it like just because I asked you to list the questions, it came to your mind? Whenever we read, do we normally have such questions? Or just because it has been asked to list out the questions, these questions came to your mind?
Normally they arise, ma'am. If we read a particular article, normally such questions arise in our minds. Yeah.
Yes, good. So have we tried to probe to get answers for that? Do we do that at all times?
Most of the time.
Yes, most of the times where normally we feel that it is necessary, and we need to find out the reason why this happens.
Why this is happening?
Yeah.
Then the context is important for us.
Right.
When that information is important for us, we try to go and explore to get relevant information, so that we are able to justify the conclusion that we are arriving, or justify the information that we are going to use it in our life, or wherever it comes applicable for us, depending upon the importance. But in general, let's make it a practice when we read to have few questions that will help us to have clarity on the topic as well as better understanding, or in other words to say, evaluating the information that is presented in the article. Evaluating the information that is presented in the article so that it is not misleading. Or is it complete? So to assess in those dimensions, it would be better if we have few questions for evaluation. So those questions could be in these 6 dimensions in the context of the situation that we have taken. Why, what, where, who, when, and how. So the 5 W's and the 1 H. So these 5 W's and the 1 H will help us in evaluating information in a better way. So the same context we have these. So all the questions that has been put up, listed. So why is the population increasing? We had that question. Is it just because is there abundance of deer to hunt? Has the deer population increased? So if the deer population has increased, what effect will this increase have on the deer population? Will that also increase or will it decrease? If it increases or decreases, in what proportion? So the population is increasing. Where is the population increasing? Is it all over India or just in isolated locations in some parts? We had that question. Who is affected by the increase in the population of leopards? So the hunters, the wolves, who are affected. And we also had this question. When did it start increasing and how long has it been increasing? Will this increase continue? So you can also go about comparing with the other places across the years, across states or across countries. And if it is of concern to us, is there any interventions or steps that we need to take to stabilize the population? So that becomes the other context. So the 5 W's and the 1 H will help us to better evaluate the information that is presented in whenever we read. Whenever we read, we can use these 5 W's and the 1 H to assess the information, the quality of information that is presented. This is where critical thinking starts, and this is how we can enhance our critical thinking skills. So, critical thinking is not driven by answers. It's not seeking for answers. It is driven by the questions that we ask. Unless we ask the right questions, we are not likely to get the right answers. So, the kind of questions we ask matters more, and that's what critical thinking is all about. So, small child, maybe 2 years, 3 years old, 4 years, till the moment we condition them, they are not conditioned. When they are exposed to the outer world or when they see new objects, new things, they keep questioning till they are convinced with the answers that we give. So as long as they are not convinced, the questions will keep on coming. Have we observed that? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. But what happens to the child as we have grown? We were also in that state, but what happened to us over the years? Do we ask those? Do we ask questions at all? Number
Thinking
one.
develops. Thinking develops over the time.
Thinking develops over the time. So do we ask questions?
Yes.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Mostly parents will allow to ask questions to their children.
Okay. To their children. So in the context of children, it helps to improve their thinking process, their better understanding, processing information. So in all that, it really helps. But
madam, some are very silent and observing. They will have very good knowledge in spite of not questioning. What about them?
See, they observe over a period, they compare, cognition happens within them, they try to relate, and they
will get the answer by themselves.
Yes, they will get the answer by themselves.
They don't question anything, but they know everything.
They know everything. They try to connect the dots. So this happens, this happens, this happens. They try to have a mental map.
Yeah, mental map they will have.
Mental map they will have, and that gives them, and that when you ask them, they will tell this is what would be the sequence of steps that has, and this would be the result. So in case if in one situation you get a type of result, in the next situation you don't get a similar type of result, then they start observing what was the difference between these two and why it has not come. But when there are so much of dissimilarities, then they may ask questions. To few people, they try to seek answers by themselves. When it's not possible is what they start questioning. But the more and more, we need to encourage them to ask questions, because the questioning will help them to have better understanding, as well as expand their the level of thinking. So even in the class, maybe at a smaller age, they ask questions. But now in the classroom, do students ask questions, or do they answer? Especially in this online classes, we will never know whether they are there at the other end or not. So what happens to them over a period? Where have we killed their questioning ability, or is it because of the rote learning system, or is it the faculty doesn't encourage them to ask questions? That's something for us to think about. So what is that we need to do to break that? What is that we need to do to make them ask questions, breaking the monotony? That will help us to have, that will help them to have better understanding, and also help us to know whether they have understood. So that becomes the context. So next slide, we'll discuss about what are the few barriers for critical and logical thinking, and then what are the interventions that we could take it up. So the first and the foremost barrier for critical and logical thinking is egocentric thinking. The tendency for an individual to view things in relation to oneself. So each one of us have grown, and we have been brought up in different situations. The past experiences that we had over the years affects our thought process, the way how we perceive, the way how we take things, the way how we judge people, the type of relationship that we have people, how we look at things, everything. And whatever happens, we try to relate ourselves to that. when a broad general comment is made, few people take it too personal. They think it is directed towards them. So they fail to understand or listen completely. It's only partial, picking up the words here and there and trying to relate it, trying to understand the context in which it is being said and why it is being said so. So that's one of the biggest barrier. We tend to, as I said, we tend to apply filters and take in information only what we want, leaving out. We may think this is important, but that need not necessarily be important. And then group think. So in a team, when we are thinking, we tend to look at, arrive at a consensus. So almost all of them trying to converge towards it and not having diverse perspectives, not allowed to have diverse perspectives. That's why when we are forming groups, we try to bring in people with different personalities, different background, different from different disciplines, we can say, so that diverse perspectives are likely to come. So it's like a flock of sheep. When the one goes, the rest also tends to follow it without understanding where and why it's going. So that mindset is the next barrier. And then the third barrier, very beautifully put up, drone mentality. The beauty of the drone is, what is speciality or the beauty of the drone? Everywhere
it will take the information even from distance.
Even from distance. It will take information even from distance, and the one which
record,
yes.
Record.
Next.
It is not selective.
It is not selective, or is it selective?
It is specifically meant for, suppose if for a program, if you start a drone, it will select that program only.
It will select that program only. So yes, whatever it has been targeted or specified, that becomes its focus. The target becomes its focus, where it fails to miss what is happening around. So we need to keep on reprogramming and redirecting the target. Only then it collects information from all the perspectives, the entire surrounding. So that mentality we should not have. We don't pay attention to what is happening around us completely. Selective, what we feel is important, what is important for us is alone we tend to pick it. But there are many other things which are equally important, which we miss. This especially happens when we try to identify, when we are working on a problem or an issue. So we tend to focus on the problem, leaving out what were the, we just look at the macro level, failing to understand what were the factors that contributed to the problem. The problem will not solve unless we pay attention to small minor things. Say one common example which we can observe everywhere is attrition. People leaving an organization. Everywhere it happens to be high. Why do people leave an organization? We say the attrition rate is increasing over a 5-year period. So if it has been increasing, we just say it is increasing. But why is it increasing? Have you ever thought about it? What do you think could be the reasons for that? What could be the reasons? Maybe pay not being a satisfactory pay. Then work-life balance. The working environment is not supportive or conducive. Colleagues are not supportive. boss may not be supportive. It could be personal reasons also. So than focusing on attrition, the most important is to look out what were the factors which are contributing to that, and that's what has to be addressed. In a totality, will not be, when we start addressing it, it will not serve the purpose. So that's more important. And then the fourth barrier is social conditioning, having unwanted assumptions and stereotyping. This partly relates to the is related to the first barrier of egocentric thinking. We tend to have our own assumptions. Say the bell curve. Any model that we design, do we list out what are the assumptions, basic assumptions, especially for the bell curve, which all of us are familiar and we have been using it. Are there any assumptions for the bell curve? Hope you're all aware of bell curve. Participants, are you there?
Madam, repeat the question.
Bell curve.
Yeah, bell curve, normal distribution.
Yes, normal distribution, bell curve. Yes.
Yeah,
so for the
symmetrical.
bell curve, are there any assumptions? What are the assumptions of the bell curve?
Mean median mode should coincide, and
yes,
it should be normally distributed.
Yes,
it's between that range only.
It will be within the range. Okay.
Within the range, yeah. The probability should be 1.
Yeah, it will be 1. It extends. It doesn't
right
touch
tail
the base.
and the left tail, yeah.
Right
should
tail
be
and left
1,
tail.
50-50%.
50-50%, equally distributed.
Yeah.
It's not skewed
Bell
and
shape.
it doesn't touch the base. So
Yeah,
these are the assumptions. So similarly, when we are developing models and we are building, when we are listing out, do we mention the assumptions? Under what circumstances or situations this holds good or this applies?
Yeah, this applies good.
So unless we don't list out those assumptions, people tend to take it's one size that fits all, one thing that fits all, but that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
To have. So most important is to list out in what conditions, in what situations it holds good. And stereotyping. I think you are familiar with the stereotyping. Why does it occur?
Yeah.
Why does it occur and what is stereotyping?
Honestly, repeating the same thing or doing the same thing, stereotyping. And they don't try for a change.
Why?
They don't get reformed.
They don't reform, they don't try, they want
change
to
according to the circumstances.
They fix up their own boundaries. They fix up their own boundaries in which
they fit into that only.
They fix
it and fit into that.
Why?
Because maybe lack of knowledge or fear, or maybe they don't want to change, or they don't want to lose their status in that. Maybe all these reasons.
All these reasons, and maybe the past experiences that they have, their experiences, which has conditioned them to behave in that way.
Same, yeah. Many we might have seen around us.
Yes.
Their belief system.
Their belief system, yes. And how does the belief system come? Again, it's based on their limited understanding and the perceptions, the experiences.
Attitude, what they form according to the family, circumstance, friends, their cognitive thinking, all those things.
All those things. And Sujata has shared lack of adaptability, fear of change, personal experiences, emotional status, moral strength. So all these adds up. All these, or it comes under that. All these leads to social conditioning, the way how we want to move, behave, interact, everything. So we condition ourselves. Lack of curiosity. So among all the animals on this planet, when we say curiosity, which animal comes to our mind?
Curiosity.
Yes,
My God.
curiosity. Which animal comes to our mind?
Dog.
No.
Lion.
Mm-hmm.
I should repeat all then. Tiger.
Konja think. Think a little bit.
Is it the bird category or ordinary animal? That hint also you give, madam.
Mammal.
Elephant.
Human beings. No.
Monkey.
Yes.
Cat.
Monkey. Monkeys.
Thank
They
you.
normally say monkeys are very curious. Very curious. They are known for the curiosity because they keep on a constant watch of what is happening. When one does, the other also will try to do that. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Similarly, kids also. When we do something, they'll try to repeat it.
That's why we say monkeys. Behaving like monkeys. Kids.
Yes. So curiosity, they want to understand why and how things are happening. And they want to give it a try. And there is a short story for kids. Curious George. It's about short story, moral story, which bedtime story for kids. Just try to, it's available in the internet. You can just read it. It's very, very interesting. The best example that I normally use for curiosity. It's about a monkey.
George, yeah?
Curious George, yes. So it's about a small monkey, a baby monkey, which tries to do whatever it sees is happening around it. And how it learns to do, not to do. So it's through a number of small incidents through which they have narrated. So the lack of curiosity also. So that lack of curiosity is to know why things are and what, how, know in depth. So that becomes another barrier. And biased experiences, what we have had. And the other is scheduled pressure. So when deadlines are there, I am put off by deadlines. So when they say this is the deadline in which you will have to finish it, you will not be able, it totally blocks my thought process. So given it's, I think it applies for everyone. So unless sufficient time is given for us to do, we'll not be able to do it to the best, bringing in a new perspective, bringing in a diverse perspective. Say if we have to, the best example is all of us are in the academics. We write articles, research articles, research papers. Can we prepare an article overnight? Every month, if we want an article to be published, will it work out?
No, madam, no. At least 2 to 3 months an article.
2 to 3 months an article, so that we will be able to think, read, relate, collate, combine, pen it down, and then rephrase, correct. It takes its own time. We need to have that time and just prepare the draft and then keep it aside. Normally they say for about a week, then take it up, read, you will have a new perspective of putting down your points in a much better way. So that's important. So if we have scheduled time pressures, we become like a robot without AI. A robot without AI, it's something like programmed to do that particular way. So when it is programmed, it cannot think beyond all that. So scheduled pressures, deadlines, times, or another important barrier where it will hinder our thought process. So our focus will be only to complete in that particular time, but not looking it in multiple or diverse perspectives, looking and bringing all those dimensions into that. And again, scheduled pressures will curb creativity also. And being arrogant, stubborn, fear, laziness, all these personal traits of an individual also are likely to be barriers. So if you are arrogant, if you are stubborn, We tend to look it only from our own perspective based on what we know, little or more, failing to understand the other perspectives. Fear of failure is other. So people will never try new things, because if it fails, what will happen? I lose. But failures teach you more than success. Laziness. I want to stay only in my comfort zone. I don't want to stretch. And I don't want to stretch. Comfort zone, I don't want to. That curbs what you want to learn, explore, everything. So these are the barriers, 8 barriers for critical and logical thinking. Is that fine? Shall we move on?
Yes.
Yes. So, having understood what are the barriers for critical and logical thinking, it is for us now to realize what is that we need to do consciously, deliberately to overcome these barriers. And it is not that difficult. It is small steps. We learned walking not with big steps, but with small steps. And any big problem that we have or any big task or work is there, we don't approach it totality in total. We try to break it into small chunks and do that so that it becomes easy to complete. Break it into small chunks, divide and do. Break it into small things so that it becomes easy to carry and complete. So what is that we need? What are the simple, small, conscious, deliberate attempts that we need to do to overcome this barriers to critical thinking is what we would be discussing. So the first and the foremost is encouraging and developing the habit of asking open-ended questions. Most importantly, the what and the how. We normally look at like how it is, we seldom question how, the process. So the more and more we start focusing on the process is what it gives us the opportunity to think, opportunity for improvement, how we can do it better. What is that we need to do it better? So let's focus more on what is that we are doing and how it has to be done. So that will help us to get better results. Say Lean, Six Sigma or process improvements in organizations. Question is only on how. What is that we need to do to improve the process and how should we improve the process? We say the defective rate is 10%. How can we bring down the defects? What is that we need to do? The quality assurance checks that we need to, that has to be put in place to bring down the rejections. So keeping it open so that people will think, brainstorm and come out with points. That's where qualitative research comes into picture. We normally tend to go on with quantitative research. Statements, options, filling up. So that's more of questioning, confining. The moment we give open-ended questions, it's more like sharing the experiences from which we will be able to have better clues. It's describing experiences, the process. That will really help to enhance the critical thinking ability. How did you do? That's where that becomes very difficult to explain. And the next and the most important one, that effort taken changing our lens, being aware of our own mental processes and heuristics, the mental shortcuts. So someone like when a speaker, when he's teaching about a topic, 3-4 sentences statements he talked, the moment we'll say, okay, I understand this is what finally he's going to tell. Do we tend to arrive at that? If we have listened to him in 4 or 5 forums, the moment he starts on a particular topic, we come to a conclusion. These are the other things he's going to tell, and this is what he's going to tell us finally. So we label because we neither don't want to listen, or maybe that was how it has happened in the past. So it's more important for us to have a fair understanding of our own self, being self-aware of how we think, how we take information, and how it is being processed, and how do we react. So that self-awareness is very, very important. So I would just give you a small statement. Be vulnerable and self-aware. We say this is one important characteristics of a leader. So what does that mean? Be vulnerable and self-aware. Be vulnerable and self-aware. Friends, I am waiting for answers. Be vulnerable and self-aware. Ready to accept flaws. Thank you, Ruxana. Others? You're hungry and you're having your lunch, leaving me?
No, it's not. We are not so hungry.
So, be vulnerable and self-aware. How do we read this short statement? Any other answers?
Madam, repeat the question.
Be vulnerable and self-aware.
Open to everything.
Open to everything.
Self-awareness. Knowing on our own.
Knowing on our own. Open for new things as well.
Yeah.
Slightly, I will
excited for acquiring the new informations or the thing.
Informations. So each one of us are likely to tip, likely to fail. So what are those tipping points of an individual, of us? We should be aware of that. That's more important. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Where we are likely to fall? Which is our strong area? So we need to understand that for every individual, every leader, there is likely to be a tipping point. What is that? The wrong button or the hot button? What puts you off? What puts them off? Or what puts me off? I need to know that. I need to accept that I am also vulnerable, and be aware of those areas or those dimensions in which I'm likely to be vulnerable, so that I will convert those. I need to protect, safeguard myself on those, and then focus on enhancing my strengths. Know my weaknesses, be aware of my strengths and weaknesses. Than the strengths, more important becomes the weaknesses. So that's very, very important. So that's more important. So we need to know how we take in information, how we process information, and how we arrive at decision. Maybe few will just listen to 1 or 2 people, they will ask for that, and what they say, with that they arrive. But few, they get information, they also search the web, take information from multiple people, they write down everything, and then they will get convinced of what it is, and then is what they take a decision. They arrive at a conclusion. So that's more important. And then the third dimension is how the information gathering process. So we need to gather information from multiple sources across multiple time periods, take in multiple viewpoints, compare everything, and then decide. Say, for example, if we have decided to buy a new mobile phone, what do?
We search out how it works, how we have to download the app, sound system, settings, keep on doing some practical things for some time.
If you're going to buy
How
a mobile phone,
how smart we can
buying
use
a
it.
mobile phone, when you want to purchase a new mobile phone.
New mobile phone, yeah.
Yes.
So we will be keep on doing some practicals on that for some time. How smart we can use.
Okay.
How best way we can use, what new settings, sounds we have, how we can put the desktop color, what it is, everything we will be keep on doing something on that. Knowing their operation part.
We will collect.
Yes, sir.
We will collect information regarding various brands available in the market. We will take a feedback from the already users. I mean, those people already have certain brands and their feedback.
Yes.
What kind? So basically, my point is that we take information. We collect information from various sources. Like first-hand users, then whatever information we have on internet.
And the
internet
brands
from,
prevailing in the market.
Any material like literature.
And then we visit shops, the salesperson, we contact them, we try to get their feedback, which brand is fast moving.
And then we compare within the budget. Like if I want to buy a mobile of 20,000, so in what possible availability is in that range. So like what brands, and then we compare between those brands, what we are getting extra or what we are getting in one brand and what we are not getting in another one. So we compare all these things, and then we come to closer to a conclusion of buying any one of the brands.
And depending upon the our usage, what is the main purpose of our use?
Yes, ma'am.
Main purpose of our use. So that is nothing but critical thinking. We just don't get feedback from one person. We ask different people who have used it. Then we do our literature search from the web. We ask the shopkeeper, the salesperson, what it is. And then we prepare a listing out everything, and then getting ourselves convinced this is fine. And after making a decision, we also seek.
What for?
And once if we have made a decision of buying this, we try to discuss with others and get it reinforced. Okay, this decision is right. And then is what we tend to make a purchase. This is one classical and simple example for critical thinking. So that we do it on for few things when we buy, but that should be in most of the things. In most of the things. So though we get from multiple people, from multiple sources, viewpoints, finally how we process it and we decide, that's important. And not making it personal. Any information that is given, let's not take it personal. So we need to understand it is common, it's a general statement, not feeling offended. The moment that happens, it's something like blocking our thought process as well as information listening. We call it as layer listener. Keep like how Ganesh Chaturthi is coming. Like the Lord Ganesha, he has big ears so that we listen multiple things and then a small brain to process it and then decide. So that's more important. So evaluate information objectively and not subjectively, not putting in our own perspectives or biases. Don't take it personal. And drawing conclusions. Get from multiple perspectives, get the inferences, and then the decision what we arrive at or the conclusion what we arrive, it should be based on the information that we have received. Say for mobile phones, compare the different brands, the ratings that we get, the information that we have got, we would like to try it and then decide which one to buy. So that decision, it's based on the information that you have got from multiple sources, the analysis that we have done. And when someone asks why you have brought this, you should be able to justify why you bought this within this particular limited budget based on your application. So that's more important. When we say, we call it as the premise and the conclusion. So premise is all the support, arguments, statements, information that you have based upon which we have arrived at the conclusion. So unless the premise is right, the conclusion may go wrong. So unless the premise is right, only when the premise is right, your conclusion is likely to be right, because we draw logically from the premises. So that's more important. I think which Kavita would have explained you in the last session. Premise or the basic assumptions, the information that we have, based upon that is what we arrive at a conclusion. Say, for example, we run high temperature, we go to a doctor. He may do the basic investigation and then he may ask you to do few blood tests, examinations. He may ask us to do. So once if we give those reports, he will go through those parameters and then is what he does the diagnosis, and then he confirms the reason for your sickness or your illness or your fever could be this. He tries to eliminate each of that, and based on that they arrive, say the possibility could be a bacterial infection or a viral infection or a protozoan infection. That conclusion what he arrives will be based on the blood test results, the results of the blood test. And once that conclusion is arrived is what our treatment starts. So without that, if he gives you, it could be a viral infection, it could be a bacterial infection, it could be a protozoan infection. So this tablets will treat a bacterial infection, this will treat a viral, and this will treat a protozoa. Will we accept that? Is it acceptable? Is it right? If we say it
Yes.
could be,
It could be.
it could be. So will we take 3 different courses of antibiotics?
That depends, madam. If 1 or 2 days, if we work out, then if we approach to doctor, he may suggest this is the thing happening now and then what I observed.
Yes.
If suppose, for example, if amoxicillin is not working, so Cefpod they are giving.
Yes.
Like the different things people are moving nowadays.
Moving off. So it is one treatment at a time. If it doesn't work, then they go for the next, but not treating all the 3 simultaneously. Because based on the symptoms we have given, they say it could be a probable bacterial infection, so they tend to treat. If it doesn't settle, then they may change the drug or do further investigations to sort it out. So
yes,
the conclusion that we arrive should be based on the information that is available logically, sequentially, which we call it as a premise. The premise should be valid, only then the conclusion will be valid. If the premise is wrong, the conclusion is likely to be wrong. And reading smartly. It is what is the, we call it as reading between sentences or reading between lines.
Reading between lines.
Reading between lines. What is the hidden information or the message that is being conveyed? That is what has to be extracted.
So that becomes, is read between lines means not to when you don't want to give any other information to other person, you say read between the lines, so that you don't want to tell him entirely. He has to understand, read between the lines.
he has to understand and then say, this is the message that is being conveyed. So each one, when we do that, we may come out with different perspectives. So that's very, very important to understand the context and process the information, and being open-minded, curiosity, humility, the ability to receive feedback and critique on our viewpoints. So how many of us are open for feedback? How many of us are open for critique? So it is just simply the other person also could be right. It's not like only I am right. So I look it in one perspective, the other person would have different perspective. So he could also be right. And when there had been few dimensions which we have missed when you are taking a decision, and a feedback is given to us on that, it is for us to explore what are the areas we need to improve upon. Don't take it personal. The context in which it is being given, why it is being said, we need to process that. That's very, very important. So, and how many of us receive that candid, proper feedback, which will give us opportunities for improvement? That's more important. Whenever we give feedback, we need to give candid feedback, giving out specific instances, what was right and what was wrong. That will help us to improve our performance, because it helps us to know what are our gray areas and how it could be improved. So again, criticism, let's look at it as a stepping stone for success. And more important is, when we are presenting our analysis, let us not be biased or on one thing, or trying to put across the point which we think is right. Let's have equal multiple alternatives, multiple options, and let's weigh all those options equally with valid information. Data-driven decision making.
Yeah, should not be specific.
Should not be specific. Just because we like it. Just because we like it, or just because that was the one that came to our mind. Never. Let us, and any conclusion that we arrive, or when you are doing any information analysis, like the example of the mobile phone, we look for data. Data-driven decision making will always help. The moment we start looking at data, it will automatically enhance our critical thinking, because data speaks a lot. Data will never go wrong. So that's why whenever we say, normally people ask for data. Where did you collect and how do you collect? And if that process has been right, it can never go wrong. So when we are critical thinking, promote critical thinking, it directly and indirectly leads to looking for relevant information, process it, extract what is required, and your conclusion or the decision that you take should be based upon that. That's very, very important. So it's like giving justification why you say so, why we say so, proof. That's more important. And that helps us to be at the to reach the highest level of critical thinking. So these are the 7 simple techniques that we can adopt to improve or to develop our critical thinking abilities. So this is what I have planned for you, and hope I was able to cover all the perspectives or the expectations that you had on the session. Or is there on any other dimension which you would like to see clarification? It's not that difficult. It's very simple, it's very easy, but it's a conscious effort or steps that we need to take. So I'd like to reiterate, it's a self-directed process. It will just not come into, we need to take conscious effort, steps to improve our thinking, our thought process, to seek information, process information, and also make the right decision. So it's not that we are not critical thinkers. We are critical thinkers in selective, for selective things. So that, let's make it a habit, I would say. So any further clarifications? This material, I'll be sharing it with the coordinators, and they'll be sharing.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, thank you.
Hope you found the session useful.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah,
You may
ma'am.
ask for 5 minutes, and then maybe we'll close. I'll share the link also for the feedback.
Ma'am, yesterday's PPTs, do we get today?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I'll be
thank
sharing.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Sri
Alright.
Prabha. I think you have got very good comments in the chat box, if you can see. I think it was a very informative and interesting session. And I was also enjoying all the small case studies and the activities that you gave, which made the participants think, I guess, right? So very interesting. Though, again, really today's session it was very interactive, both the sessions, I must say. And the small, the activities which you gave, very interesting. In fact, I also wanted to answer. Then I said, okay, fine. Being a coordinator, I should not. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your efforts, for the time that you spent, and for that excellent session. And on behalf of all the participants also, I thank you, Dr. Sri Prabha. Thank you. Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Kavita. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
Hope you found
Thank
the
you,
session
ma'am.
useful.
It's
Yeah.
excellent session. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So the
thanks for
challenge
joining us.
lies in how are we going to inculcate this amidst the students? That's more important. So we start practicing it, and then gradually make the students also think, irrespective of the discipline, it fits for all.